I love Tom's speeches. Every one of them he's given since I've been an AMP Toastmaster member has been incredible. They're always exciting. They're always very informative. And I would like to bring up today's speaker, Tom Rich. The title of his speech today is Black Heart with a Silver Lining. Tom Rich, Black Heart with a Silver Lining.
Is it a commitment to excellence, or should the man have just been committed? Mr. Toastmaster, fellow members and guests, last year, Al Davis, the iconic owner of the Oakland Raiders, passed away at age 82. Whether you loved him or you hated him, you have to recognize what a powerful influence he was on the game of football as we know it today. Al's mantra was, just win, baby. And that was more than just a slogan to Al. That was a way of life. It was that just win attitude that allowed Al to go from coaching the Raiders to owning the Raiders. It was that same just win attitude that allowed him to build one of the most colorful and successful franchises that any sports league has ever seen. But time waits for no one, and it didn't wait for Al. Toward the end of his career, the success of the Raiders seemed to fade with the capacities of their owner. Now, Al started off as a coach for the worst team in the old AFL, the Oakland Raiders. They were terrible. But in Al's first year as the head coach, he turned them around to a 10-4 record and took them to the playoffs. He posted 2 more winning seasons after that. And the ownership of the Oakland Raiders was so impressed at the time, they decided they wanted to keep Al around. So they gave him a little piece of ownership in the team and named him general manager. But Al had his eye on a bigger prize than that. So he got well acquainted with the bylaws of the organization. He found that any owner, regardless of how little you owned in the team, could call an emergency meeting of ownership, and anything that was decided there was binding. So when the owner of the team took off to Europe to watch the Olympics, Al swooped in, called an emergency meeting of ownership, had himself named managing general partner of the Oakland Raiders for life. For life. When that poor Muyat came back from Europe, he'd have been lucky to have influence over a hot dog vendor, let alone football operations. This was now Al's team. Just win, baby. But it was that same just win attitude that allowed Al to build one of the most colorful and successful franchises that any sports league has ever seen. They were known at one time as the team of the decades. They had the highest winning percentage of any team in any pro sport. And Al did it by bringing in great players. Al didn't care what your background was, what your reputation was, what you'd done for some other team. Al didn't care if you'd just gotten released from prison. If you could play football, Al wanted you on that team. And he brought in colorful characters. I mean, great players like the Mad Bomber, Daryl LaMonica, the Mad Stork, Teddy Hendricks, the Assassin, Jack Tatum, and the Snake, Kenny Stabler, just to name a few. And these guys, they loved Al. I mean, they just thought he was the greatest because Al didn't have a bunch of silly rules to follow. He didn't, have a dress code or a curfew. Al's rule, just win, baby. And these guys bought into it, lock, stock, and barrel. Now, I don't want to call the Raiders cheaters, because to me that's just sour grapes from the people they used to beat up on. But they clearly played at the gray zone more than any other team. My favorite example of this is the old Holy Roller play. It was 1978, and the Raiders went down to San Diego to play the Chargers. There was just seconds left in the game, and the Raiders had the ball on the 10-yard line, down by 6, trying to go in for the go-ahead score. The Snake took the snap from center and he faded back to pass, but the Chargers brought the blitz. The Snake tried to slither away, but he couldn't. It looked like it was all over. He was going down, but then he accidentally fumbled the ball forward into the end zone where a mad scramble ensued, and lo and behold, the Raiders came up with the touchdown and won the game. I still have to laugh when I picture the San Diego Chicken collapsing of a heart attack in the end zone as the Raiders won the game. It was a great play. But it'll never happen again because the next year, the league made it illegal to fumble the ball forward in the last 2 minutes of a game. Went down in Raider folklore, but it'll never happen again. Unfortunately, time waits for no one, and it didn't wait for Al. Toward the end of his career, he was kind of a magician early on. Toward the end of his career, Merlin kind of seemed to lose his magic. He still tried to pull the same strings he used to. I mean, he brought in great players. Brought in Ronnie Lott and Jerry Rice and Bill Romanowski and Warren Sapp. But they just didn't win, baby. And then in 2007, it was obvious that Al had completely lost it. He had the first pick in the NFL draft. I mean, this is where you build your franchise. A good pick here, you have a decade of success and maybe rack up several Super Bowls. But instead, Al picked this little-known quarterback out of LSU named Jamarcus Russell. Jamarcus even held out on Al. Cost Al $30 million a year to get this guy to come and play for us. He finally started a handful of games in his second season, and then was benched, and finally he was released. The guy was so bad that no other team even picked him up. Nobody even wanted him for a backup. He was completely out of football, a complete bust. The chant from the fans went from "just win, baby" to "just retire, baby." I mean, it was sad to see. You could have made a case many times throughout Al's career that he should have been committed, but you can never question his commitment to excellence. Al always wanted to win. It was that desire to win, that just win attitude, that allowed him to go from coaching the Raiders to owning the Raiders, and taught us all to be careful when you take a vacation. It was that same just win attitude that allowed him to build one of the most colorful and successful franchises that any sports league had ever seen. The team of the decade, the highest winning percentage of any pro sports team. But time waits for no one, and it didn't wait for Al. Toward the end of his career, the chants from the fans went from "just win, baby" to "just retire, baby." Now, I don't know where Al is now, whether he went to heaven or he went to hell, but I just have one piece of advice for his next overlord. Do not give this man partial ownership of your franchise. Mr. Toastmaster.